Hello everybody, Yusuf Haji at Haji Daily. Welcome back. Today we're talking about the Minnesota Republican Party. And Senator Omar Fateh. You know, it's always good to keep a score. You know how it is, like I know most of you watch a soccer game, or you watch an NBA, or you watch the NFL, and you know how you keep scores. Like, for instance, this past season, the Minnesota Vikings came back from the largest deficit in the NFL history against the Indianapolis Colts, right? Today, 27 points, LA Lakers came back and defeated Brooklyn Nets. Manchester United just won the premiership. If I read that right. But anyway, so coming to the Minnesota Republican Party. The Minnesota Republican Party don't keep scores. I know, because I've been here 23 years. From the election of Trump, when Trump came to Minneapolis, his attacks on the Somali American community in Minnesota, the Republicans' racist attacks against everybody else. Some of the wordings that they usually choose to attack communities. I know, because I've seen it. I have experienced it. And I've been at the front of it. So some of you know that I used to live in St. Cloud for a long time. And so I'm not going to tell you about St. Cloud. But if you want to know about St. Cloud, I have written an article. You can check it out. It's on Sahan Journal, as well as you can see it on NPR. About why I moved from St. Cloud, Minnesota, and after having lived there for so long, because even my, 3 of my kids were born in St. Cloud Hospital. So we moved. But I have a well-written article on Sahan Journal and also on NPR. You can read about it. The other day, Senator Omar Fateh, going through the fight for driver license for all, something happened. 7 hours of debates on driver license for all. And so Senator Omar Fateh said something that the Republicans senators at the Senate didn't like. So they complained about it. And what did Senator Omar Fateh say that really riled up the Republican Senate? Some of the senators, including the guy here with the beard. I don't know if you guys see him, a picture there. What did Senator Omar Fateh really say to make them so angry? But I have been angry for... Okay. I don't want to express myself this way. It's not, I don't like it. I don't like it when I do express myself this way. But I'll be honest with you. For so many years, right, I've been at the forefront fighting the Republicans' hate against the Somali American community here in Minnesota, right? And not only the Somali American community, many, many other communities, right? And it's funny, man. Omar Fateh says one thing and they really, really don't like it. They don't like it. They got really pissed off by what Senator Omar Fateh said. But they've been saying, like I said, you need to keep scores. You know how many hateful things the Republican Party of Minnesota have said about many communities? Individuals that have said things hateful things, more dangerous things. So they don't know how to keep a scope. They only know when they get insulted, they're so mad about it. They want the whole world to know. Oh, Senator Omar Fateh said something about, called us terrorists. You know how many times you've called Somali American and many other groups in Minnesota? How many times you've called them names on your radio shows, on your talk shows, on your Twitter, on your everything? You have said some of the nastiest things you can say about communities that are non-white here in Minnesota. I'm talking to the Republicans who are not happy about what Senator Omar Fateh said. And I don't think Senator Omar Fateh said, he did not directly call them out and say, you are terrorists. He just said the immigrants that they are calling and they have all these names for, the groups the Republicans love and like to attack and use these hateful words against. Just Omar Fateh was just pointing that out to them and say, hey, look. And I just spoke the facts and shared some data with them. So you want to tell me the insurrection at January 6th in Washington, D.C. was not an act of terrorism? Yeah, you can ask a question. But I'll get back to you. Let me just finish my thought. Pretty unique. I definitely can. But what I'm trying to drive at is, so basically, let me just say let me read out what. So you guys know, I don't know if you guys follow, but there's this news called Alpha News, right? You can go back 3-4 years and see what they have written about communities here in Minnesota, or what they have reported about communities here in Minnesota. I'm talking about every community that is, again, non-white. Every community that is non-white. So I'm reading from Alpha News, what they have written. I don't agree with them. Just want to let you know that I do not agree with how Alpha News presents its news articles, right? It's very well, it's biased. So it's just like a Republican mouthpiece, basically. And they don't do their homework. Usually they just, they do not do their homework. So I don't like, well, what I'm saying, I read it because I want to know how they think. So I usually follow and read. I follow them on Twitter as well. It's good. You should follow them as well. But this is what the Alpha News, based in Minnesota, has written about what has happened, what Senator Omar Fateh said to his Republican colleagues in the Senate. So this is what Senator Omar Fateh said. Senator Omar Fateh delivered comments at the tail end of the nearly 7-hour discussion over the contentious driver license for all. Of course, eventually the bill passed 34-31 in the Senate. That was last Tuesday evening. And so he said, this is what Alpha News is saying, right? It's not what I said. I don't think it's not what really Senator Omar Fateh really wanted to put out there. Or maybe his choice of words were a little bit harsh. A little bit. But what Alpha News is saying, that Senator Omar Fateh said racially violent extremist who advocates for superiority of the white race. But isn't that the truth, though? And here's my evidence for that. I have lived in the state of Minnesota for 23 years. Out of that 23 years, half of my time I've spent in St. Cloud, Minnesota, in central Minnesota. I was here when Donald Trump announced to run for president the first time. I wrote an article. It's a Huffington Post article that I wrote about the threats of white supremacy now that Donald Trump was on his way to being elected president of the United States. You can check it out. Huffington Post, Yusuf Haji. Check it out. There's another article that I've written about the threats of white supremacy and me living in central Minnesota and my experience in central Minnesota.